Our UI was praised for being intuitive, but many said it's somewhat overloaded, sterile, and doesn't match the spirit and style of the game at all. Quote, "The interface is intuitively understandable. That's great, but it's overloaded. So, the UI seems clear, but it doesn't work for the game."
What to do about this? In today's episode, I will tell you about our approach to redesigning the interface.
Hello everyone, you are on the ERZ online channel. It's the online channel. My name is Sergey Miyakin. I'm the author and developer of this universe, and here I tell you various interesting things about game development. I'll provide the details on game design, and you give a like, subscribe, and comment. Let's go! To make it clear, the UI is not the weakest part of our game. That is, the interface overall works for us. And, given that we don't have many resources, not much time, the decision that it still needs to be redone was difficult for me. In general, it was what is called a gray box. That is our interface. First, we create a great interface that should work, and then we style it in the form of sci-fi with various frames and other elements. But when we started working on the style, we realized that something fundamentally wasn't working, and there were too many shortcomings, and it somehow wasn't connected to the game. Redoing everything from scratch is, of course, difficult, but those who follow us know that we redo a lot of things, and that is, so to speak, our style. So let's figure out what was wrong. Look, the UI took up a lot of space at the top and bottom. This is normal for shooters, for example, or for first-person games where it's very important to look at the center of the screen, on the side, on the right. But the ceiling and floor are not as important for perceiving the game. We have a two-dimensional game about a map, and essentially our attention is distributed like a square, right? Therefore, it makes more sense to use the right and left edges more than the top and bottom. Stylistically, we are detached from the game. I mean, we have something dry, like some kind of IDE, a development tool, I don't know, some sort of debug panel, roughly speaking, rather than an interface. And there are too many different ways of interaction in our interface. For example, at the top, we have panels, and crafting opens through separate drop-down things. At the bottom, there is a quick actions panel. Here we have different robot selections. Overall, everything is clear, but it somehow overloads the mind. The interface is shown all at once. That is, we dump all the features at once. This is also bad for perception. It overloads the brain. And when I looked at this interface, there's this strange feeling. Everything seems fine, everything seems clear, but something inside is off. So look, at some point, I decided to play a game and directly log what I am specifically doing in the game, right? There, I click here, open this menu, clicked here, done. I had a second-by-second log of what I was doing. When I wrote it down, I created a heat map of the interface and realized that 90% of the interface just always hangs there, takes up the screen, and is used 5% of the time. And then I realized that we have some big problems with how the interface fits on the screen. What is a heat map? What other methods are there for transforming the interface, and how do we use all of this? All about this in our next themed episode. Next Monday, I will tell you exactly how we worked through all of this, where we looked for references, what we compared it with, and how we made the interface better. In general, look at how we did it. We started, yes, with stylization. I showed this interface in the style of old mines. And then I realized, the problem is not in the content, the problem is something else. And when we started working through the questions, what is where and how is it used? How much time does it take? We eventually formulated the principles by which we need to redesign our entire interface. The principles are simple. First, make space for the game. The interface should not overshadow the game with all these panels. It should be minimal. Second, less cognitive load. That is, give the person less to not understand. Well, better 2 buttons than many buttons that will only be used later. Remember how we moved from market buildings to panels? Now we want to achieve the reverse effect. We want initially for the person to play using the buildings. It's much simpler. That is, there is a robot, approach the building, interact with it, approach this building, interact here. Then all this will go into panels, but that will be after some time. I think these will simplify understanding the game and simplify interaction with the game to the point where I control the robot, I press E, exit the building, and it seems like we're trying, and it seems to be working well. And finally, the third principle is that the interface should work for specific mechanics. That is, it should support what is happening on the screen. For example, we have zones where we cannot use weapons, and there are zones where we can. There is a safe zone and a dangerous zone. In the dangerous zone, the interface starts to look different and panels appear that weren't there before. This is also an approach of linking, deeply linking mechanics and interface. And yes, I told you about the dangerous and safe zone. It will be a little different, not like we did in the last playtest. And this is what the guys are developing for me right now. How did we redesign the logic of the bases, the logic of these zones? About all this in one of the next episodes. It will probably be in a couple of weeks or so. Write in the comments which games and with what interface you like the most. I'm interested in what references, so to speak, what allusions can be made to which games. Search, because we are working on the interface right now and it is useful for us too. Maybe we will see something from there. Also, you can write about where the game is interesting but the interface is kind of weak and gets in the way. Subscribe, there will soon be an episode about graphics, and that is really a super powerful topic. Bye.